Today I'm going to talk about whether or not you need to use a curriculum in your first year of home education. Now, there is a lot of talk online about curriculums and which curriculum should you pick, which is the best, which is going to suit your child, or should you even pick a curriculum at all? There is a whole other side of the internet which is like, don't pick a curriculum because it's going to destroy a love for learning. So I'm going to discuss all of that in today's video and help you think through thoroughly whether or not you should use a curriculum in your first year of home education. Firstly, let's cover, do you need to use a curriculum in the UK? And the answer to that is no, you do not need to use a curriculum in the UK. What you must do is you must provide an education that is suitable for your child's age, ability and aptitude. However, that can be done in many different ways, and that may or may not include the use of a curriculum. So in the UK, you do not need to use a curriculum. Now let's move on to should you use a curriculum, which is a whole another topic, isn't it? Because we want to do what is best for our children, and we want to know whether or not using a curriculum is going to be the best thing for them, or if going a different route might be better for them. So let's have a discussion about that now. So this video is aimed at you if your child is ages between about 4 and 6 years old, so between about primary 1 to primary 3. So I want you to bear that in mind when we are discussing curriculum. And what I want to say is that a lot of the internet is very divisive, right? So there is a whole side of the internet that is going to be like very anti-curriculum. They're going to be very like child-led learning. They're going to be a lot of the unschoolers are going to fall into this camp. Not all of them, but a lot of them are going to fall into this camp of anti-curriculum. We should not ever use a curriculum. It destroys a love for learning. And then there's the flip side of that, where there's a lot of people that are very pro-curriculum and they are like, curriculum is amazing. We should use curriculum. We should do a more school-at-home approach. So you've kind of got one side where they're like, people have been potentially wounded by the school system and they want nothing to do with school, and anything that even slightly looks like school, aka curriculum, is tarred with the same brush, and so we should never use curriculum. But then we've got people that are like, we must use curriculum and it must be like a long school day and curriculum all the way for every single subject. And so the internet likes to be very divisive, right? You should be either in one camp or another camp. And I'm here to tell you that the best way, probably, in my opinion anyway, is not either of these ways. In my opinion, the best way is to be balanced. And that is the view that I hold. I think a balanced view of most things in life, but especially home education, a balanced view is the best way. I am not someone who thinks that curriculum is inherently bad just because it looks like school. But I'm also not someone who's going to say we must use curriculum for every subject or it doesn't count as learning. I don't fall into either of these camps. I fall into the camp of curriculum is a useful tool, and it is useful for many things and not for everything. And that is the camp that I fall into. And I think that actually a lot of home educators fall into that camp. It's just, you don't see it as much online because it is the very big headlines of like, I hate curriculum or school at home only. These are the ones that you see videos about because they're so divisive and controversial, and that's what you see. But I think most home educators take a more balanced approach and a more balanced view. And practically working it out in a day-to-day real life, a balanced view is most likely going to work best for your family. When my oldest son was 5, I was much more leaning towards the learning through play and no curriculum route. And I have to tell you that it did not serve our family as well as I thought it would. It led to me being overwhelmed and our home was chaotic. It was overwhelming because there were still things that I thought my son needed to learn, but then I had to teach him through play. And so I had to put all this extra work and thought into it, and it was exhausting. And now trying to do that with multiple children would just be too much. And so I then used curriculum, and it became a really helpful addition to our home education days. And it freed up my mind, it relieved my mental load to think about other things and to think about being creative and learning in other ways, in other areas. But for the core subjects, using curriculum really was just a really helpful tool. And I view now curriculum as a supplement to learning through play. I don't think of curriculum as like, this is the most important thing. I think of it as a helpful tool and as a supplement to learning in other ways, learning through practical hands-on experiences, learning through going out and about in the world, learning through books. I think these are all some of the best ways to learn, but curriculum is a very helpful tool and it certainly has helped our family enormously. So what I recommend is using a curriculum for your core subjects. Now, you can decide what your core subjects are. Most people will choose English and maths. So if you use an English curriculum and a maths curriculum, that covers your basics when your child is ages 4, 5 or 6 years old. That is more than enough curriculum in my opinion. And you can obviously do more than that, but I wouldn't recommend doing less than that. I would say that English and maths covering your core subjects using a curriculum really frees up your mind to think about other things because you know, okay, I've got the basics covered. I don't have to think about that, that's getting done. And now we can go on and explore more fun, different topics. Let's do a bit of science, let's go visit a museum. Let's do all these different things that we can learn about because you know that the basics are getting covered. If you are feeling overwhelmed at the very thought of your first year of home education and you're afraid of getting it wrong, then I've linked down below my free masterclass, which is called First Steps into Home Education, and it's exactly that. It takes you through the very first step you need to get started in home education, and I've created it for you to help you feel more calm and confident and help you enjoy your first year of home education more. So I'll link that down below and I would encourage you to go and check it out. Now, curriculum can sometimes feel like this big daunting task that you have to get done, and if you've never used a curriculum before, you might be a bit scared of using it because you're like, oh, it's gonna be this big, stressful, difficult thing. But I'm here to tell you that curriculum that is produced nowadays is very easy to use. Most of the curriculum that you'll find for the early years is open and go, which means you literally open it up and you go. It has scripted lessons for you, which means it tells you exactly what to say and exactly what to do, like step by step, word by word in a lot of cases. So it's very, very easy to use and very accessible. And the amount of time you're going to be using curriculum is not that long. In the early years, ages 4, 5 and 6, it's going to be around about 15 to 20 minutes per subject per day. So that's around about half an hour for both English and maths, which when you think about it in terms of your whole home education day is a tiny, tiny percentage of it. I'll just show you now what a typical lesson looks like in a curriculum book for this age. So I've got here, just to show you, here, if you can see that. So there you go. That's a double page spread of one lesson. So you can see there's a few activities which take not much time at all. There's a little handwriting exercise and then another circling activity down the bottom. So yeah, it literally says the blue boxes below show the vowels A, E, I, O and U, and then point to each vowel and say its name. Now point to each vowel and say its long side, so it literally reads it word for you, and then you can they just do it there. That's one activity done. And then the next one is just a reading, saying the vowel sounds for each of the words. These activities take a very short period of time. And then the handwriting might take a little bit longer on the back. And then another little just matching activity, an activity where you need to match the words that rhyme with the word on the shark. And they're so pretty. Like there's a lot of these curriculums are made to be really enjoyable for the child. The illustration is really pretty. And these illustrations here, it's really, really nice. And so that's not going to take long at all. And I'll show you an example of maths. That was English. So here's an example of maths. Again, really pretty pictures and just not a lot of, not a lot of work at all, really, when you think about it. So I just showed you that in order to help you feel less overwhelmed by the thought of curriculum and feel less daunted by it as a whole. I thought I would just address here as well about what to do if your child is resisting sitting down and doing a curriculum workbook style thing. So what I would say to that is that I have experience with that. I have 2 children who are of home education age officially now, they're school age officially. And I have one child who really quite enjoys doing workbooks and sit down work like that and finds it quite enjoyable. And I have another child who would do anything to get out of it and does not enjoy it. And what I have done is I have approached it differently with both children because of the way they are wired. So the child that is resisting, I would go out of my way to choose a curriculum which has less handwriting in it, for example, because he doesn't love handwriting. And I will choose curriculums that are more appropriate to each of their desires and abilities. But I will say that I do still insist on the core subject curriculums to be done. Like, I do insist on that. And I do think that for the good of your child, if you've decided that these are really important and the best way to do them, to do subjects, is through a curriculum, then yes, you're allowed to insist that your child does it. Make it enjoyable, make it as relaxing as possible, but you are allowed to insist that your child does it for the good of their education, if that's what you decide. And so that's what I've done. I have decided that we will do English and Maths as core subjects as a curriculum to ease my mental load and just to make sure we're getting done what I believe is important for them to get done. And that's what I've done. So obviously it's up to you what you do with your children, and there are ways of making it easier so your child doesn't resist as much. The number one way, in my opinion, to prevent your child resisting doing that kind of learning is just to make it very consistent every single day at the same time in the same part of your daily routine, so they know it's coming. And so they expect it to happen, and they're like, okay, this is going to happen now. It's going to be over pretty quick. Just do it and get it done. And often when my son starts doing it, he actually does enjoy it on some level. And he's progressed so fast using a curriculum compared to not using one. So that's my experience. Okay, which curriculum should you choose? You'll see lots of videos on YouTube about curriculums from specific brands and why this curriculum is better than that curriculum, and this curriculum will suit this child better, that curriculum suits that child better. And there is so much information. You could watch hundreds of hours on which curriculum is the best. Everyone will have a different opinion, everyone has a different method of home education, and it is so overwhelming, so stressful, and I would encourage you not to go down the rabbit hole of research, and get stuck there and unable to claw your way back out and actually just begin. Because I'm going to let you in a little secret. In my opinion, the curriculum that you choose is not that important. It really is not that important. Yes, you can choose a curriculum that is slightly more suited to your child and their ability and the way they work. But at the end of the day, it's much more important that you choose a curriculum, that you get started, and that you use it consistently. That is what is the best. There's no point choosing the best ever curriculum and then use it once or twice and you just don't really do much with it. What's more important than you choosing the perfect curriculum is just choosing a curriculum and getting started. And once you've got started, you will then find out which curriculum is going to suit your child more. But right at the start, especially when you're so new to everything and you're figuring everything out and everything is fresh, just pick a curriculum that is within your budget and get started with it. Let's talk now about using workbooks versus using a curriculum. So here are some workbooks. I'm sure you've seen them everywhere. You see them in shops all the time, and they are just workbooks, right? Versus a curriculum like this, where you've got like a teacher's manual and like a student guide. And yeah, so workbooks versus a curriculum. Now, the temptation is to use workbooks because they are way cheaper. These cost about £5 each, and these cost considerably more. And you think, is there much of a difference between it? But I'm here to tell you there is quite a significant difference. The workbooks tell you, do this. And the curriculum tells you, here is how to do this. And that is a big difference. So for example, if you are studying the letter I, the workbooks will say, trace the letter I and match all the things that begin with letter I to the big I in the middle. That's a very typical activity for a workbook. So it'll say I'll give you an example. Count the 7th lollipop. Count the birds and write the number. Whereas you've got this, which would say something like, here is the letter I. I says, eh. Can you say eh? And then it teaches you the letter I, how to say it. And then it will teach you how to write it. And it will teach you how to do the things. Whereas the workbook just assumes you already know it and gets you to do the activities. So I hope that makes sense. So one is telling you, here, do this. And the other, the curriculum, is telling you, here's how you do it, and explaining in great depth and detail and in sequence how to do it. Again, that's another thing that is different between them, is the workbooks will just kind of go in an order, in not a specific order really necessarily, whereas the curriculum will go very sequentially, move from one skill to the next and kind of build upon itself. So they are significantly different, and I would recommend that you use a curriculum. Workbooks are great if you want to do additional supplemental practice. We use it as like a more gentle learning weekday when we're not wanting to do the full curriculum. We just do like a page of the workbook and it's more fun. Whereas a curriculum is what they're really using to learn the basics, and the workbooks are being used as a supplemental material to just revise and review material. Okay, I've talked for an awful long time about curriculum now, so I'm going to leave it there, but leave me a question down below if you have a question about curriculum. I read all my comments and I will answer your question. And also check out the free masterclass in the description box below. That is going to be really helpful for you as you take your first step into home education. And if you are ready to take the next step and you are sure you're going to home educate this year, you're like, yes, let's go for it, but you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed and kind of fearful about what exactly you're going to do, I have a guide which I've created for you. If you have a child ages between 4 and 6 years old and you're in the UK and you're like, yes, home education this year, we're going to do it, but you're not quite sure exactly what you're doing fully yet, then I have a guide that will take you through step by step exactly what you need to do, and also everything that you can just forget about and ignore. I will link that guide down below. Go and check it out and see everything that it covers, because it is a really comprehensive guide and it covers everything you need to know for that first year of home education. So thanks for sticking around, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.